Welcome back. Let's go back to our Abuja studios where Maupe is standing by with more stories. Hello, Maupe.
Hello, Melinda. We welcome our viewers to our Abuja studios once again. Now, we're starting in the courts. The son-in-law to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is to remain in custody until a federal high court in Lagos hears his bail application tomorrow, Thursday, August the 14th. The decision to keep Mr. Abdullahi Babalele in custody follows his arraignment today by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that's the EFCC, for alleged money laundering. The EFCC also arraigned Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's lawyer, Mr. Uyekben Giwa-Osage, and his brother Erunse Giwa-Osage on 3 counts of alleged money laundering to the tune of $2 million in the build-up to this year's general elections without going through any financial institution.
This is a bailable offense. If you check the sections under which the charge was brought, the money laundering section, section 16(2)(b), you will find that the offense does not even carry a jail term, a sentence at all. No, the two counts don't even carry. They said if you are found guilty of having paid 140,000 beyond, which is beyond the threshold, then you are liable to forfeit 25% of the excess that you ought not to have paid. When I calculated it, it will mean that he is liable, assuming he were found guilty, which God forbid, he's liable to forfeit about 11.4 million naira, which will be the excess of the threshold that he ought to have maintained.
It would be ridiculous for anybody to construe the provision of section 16(2) as giving the court, upon conviction, discretion to just impose fine without terms of imprisonment. The act that created the offense also provided for terms of imprisonment of not beyond 3 years. So although the court also has the power to impose fine, but that does not say that the court does not have the power to impose custodial imprisonment. That is the provision of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act.
Well, the courts were not the only one carrying out their businesses, as banks and other businesses are reopened in the nation's capital after the 4-day Eid el-Kabir holiday, and workers are slowly returning to work. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa caught up with workers making their way into the Federal Secretariat at about 9 a.m. this morning. And although some of the workers are glad to be back at work after the long break, some complained about not being able to celebrate the Eid due to lack of funds.
Unlike the usual heavy traffic, the streets of the Federal Secretariat in the nation's capital are free, as many of the residents who traveled for the holiday are yet to return.
There's no stress. Because from my assets, there was a go-slow, but today, because I feel that many people have not resumed. So within 20 minutes, I'm already in the town, so I feel so happy.
Some civil servants complain about not having money for the holidays, while others say they are refreshed after the break.
All of us were expecting that our welfare as normally will be given to us, but very unfortunate, nothing. So we went to celebrated the Sasala celebration with nothing, no money in the pocket.
I'm very happy. We are refreshed.
Well, coming back to work is good. It's like a fresh start. Going for 4 days, coming back, it's a fresh start.
In the Garki area, however, business is in full swing, with banks open for business and markets running business as usual.
Did not stop my work, did not stop me from going to work. It doesn't deserve a salary holiday.
On Sunday to this Wednesday, my shop is shut. Oh, the business now is going okay, it's all right.
The Salah celebrations in the nation's capital were relatively peaceful, and workers, though off to a slow start, hope the peace experienced during the break will continue throughout the year. Kayla Magwa, Channels Television News.
And in an unfortunate development, the Ogun State Police Command has confirmed the abduction of 3 persons around Odeomi area of Ijebu, a boundary town between Ogun and Lagos in the waterside area of Ogun East Senatorial District. Reports have it that on the eve of the Eid-el-Kabir, some suspected kidnappers invaded the area and abducted the chief imam's son and 2 other persons. The police public relations officer, DSP Abimbola Oyeyemi, says the police have commenced rescue operations in the area. And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back to Lagos now, where Kayode Okikiolu is standing by with business news.
You First. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Mark Ware, and you're welcome to Business News. The CEO of financial derivatives company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, has provided some insights into President Muhammadu Buhari's statement that the Central Bank of Nigeria should stop foreign exchange support for food imports. Mr. Rewane believes that the policy intention is a step in the right direction, but carefully managed not to encourage increased level of smuggling while helping local industries. The economist shared his views on Channels Television's Business Morning today.
Imported food items will no longer be available on the official foreign exchange list. It means that you will have to buy the money in a parallel market and induce the custom officers. So basically, what you are going to create is a smuggler's paradise. What has happened in Nigeria since we banned the importation of rice has been that the importation of rice in Nigeria has dropped, but correspondingly, the importation of rice into Benin Republic and Togo has actually increased. So basically, you end up, these regulations help in certain respect, but at times it ends up like playing with mirrors. The food producing states are going to latch onto this and say, we need some monetary policy support from the central bank intervention, anchor borrowers program. We need that foreign exchange is prohibited to these people so that they can create jobs. We need some additional support. We need customs to protect smuggling and all.
Now to the petroleum sector. Nigeria has reaffirmed its commitments to production adjustments agreement under the Declaration of Cooperation between members and non-members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Well, this was made known today in a statement by the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, which is Nigeria's representative on the OPEC Economic Commission Board, Mr. Mele Kyari. He explains that with increasing volatility of the oil market, it has become necessary for Nigeria and all other parties to the agreement, which was reached at the last OPEC Plus ministerial meeting in Austria on July the 2nd, to form an unwavering devotion to the deal. And there's still no respite for the downturn at the stock exchange as the all-share index falls closer to the 26,000 lower level as profit-taking and high-value equities continue. Bayo Adegoke has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Investors at the stock markets resumed from the 2-day Muslim holiday, with profit-taking kicking off the second week of August still in the red. This comes after intense sell pressure from 4 key sectors of the NSE, particularly the industrial goods, banking and the oil and gas sector, led to a whopping 109 billion naira loss in total market value and 0.82% drop in the main index. Interestingly, only the insurance counter closed the day positive by 0.45% as investors position for the sector's recapitalization proposal submission deadline set for August the 22nd. On the price chart, UACN emerged as the #1 on a list of 27 losers with a 10% price load shared, while Continental Reinsurance led 3 other gainers up by 4.32%. Meanwhile, the GT Bank, Zenith and Access Bank are lead contributors to a total of 235.11 million shares traded today. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Layo Adegoke.
Thank you, Layo. Outside the country, in South Africa, stocks slipped to a near 6-month low after the U.S. Treasury bond yield curve inverted for the first time since 2007. This reflected concerns about the outlook for the world's biggest economy. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange broader all-share index fell 2.1% to 54,032 points, while the benchmark top 40 index dropped 2.35% to 48,285 points in the afternoon. On the other hand, the country's gold stocks bucked the trend as investors flee to safe haven assets. Meanwhile, weak economic data, global trade tensions, and the impact of Brexit have raised concerns about the global economy, to which South Africa is a major supplier of commodities. On a global scale, concerns of global recession, weak economic data, and a troubling signal about the U.S. economy sent stock markets on Wall Street and across Europe spiraling down at the close of today's trading. Let's find out how other major global markets ended the day. Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I am Kayode Okikiolu. The News at 10 continues with Melinda.
You First. First Bank.
Many thanks, Kayode. China has likened the behavior of demonstrators in recent protests in Hong Kong as terrorist in nature. Some observers believe the repeated use of such language suggests that China is losing patience with the protesters and could increase the likelihood of an intervention from Beijing. Here's Simon Pusey with more international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. The British Prime Minister has accused members of Parliament and the European Union of collaborating to block Brexit. In what he described as the People's PMQs, Boris Johnson used a Facebook question and answer session to hit out at his critics.
There's a terrible kind of collaboration, as it were, going on between people who think they can block Brexit in Parliament and our European friends. And our European friends are not moving in their opposition to, in their willingness to compromise. They're not compromising at all on the withdrawal agreement, even though it's been thrown out 3 times. They're sticking with every letter, every comma of the withdrawal agreement, including the backstop, because they still think that Brexit can be blocked in Parliament. And so the awful thing is that the longer that goes on, the more likely it is, of course, that we will be forced to leave with a no-deal Brexit. That's not what I want. It's not what we're aiming for.
Earlier, the former Chancellor, Philip Hammond, said Boris Johnson was trying to destroy any chance of a new Brexit agreement. He went on to say there's no mandate for leaving the EU without a deal, and that crashing out would be a betrayal of the referendum result.
Pivoting to say that the backstop has to go in its entirety, a huge chunk of the withdrawal agreement just scrapped, is effectively a wrecking tactic. The people behind this know that that means there will be no deal. To set the bar for negotiations so high that we inevitably leave without a deal would be a betrayal. And the Prime Minister said he would get a deal, and we want to see him deliver that deal.
Hong Kong protesters are being condemned by police for hijacking the international airport. 5 people were detained as a result of violent clashes over the past 2 days. In one instance, an officer drew his gun, pointing it at demonstrators as he tried to defend himself. And a Global Times journalist has been released from hospital after he was tied up by protesters who thought he was an undercover policeman.
I'd like to draw attention here to the suffering of the visitors at the hand of radical protesters. We have seen multiple innocent visitors being randomly held captive and obstructed from taking their way to the departure gates.
Thousands of passengers who were trapped during the chaos expressed relief as check-in counters reopened. They also criticised the actions of both demonstrators and officials.
There was no security at all, and the airport authority, I don't know what were they doing. They have taken money for the taxes of the tickets, so they were responsible for the security of the passengers. But it was nothing.
We're not to blame for this. So it's not the protesters. But at the end of the day, we are going to start to blame the protesters because we're the ones caught in the middle of the sandwich. And, you know, I'm already 2 days late getting to where I got to be.
And new satellite images appear to support claims this week that China was amassing troops on the border. Taken on Monday, the photos show what's believed to be more than 100 military vehicles parked in the Shenzhen Bay Sports Center. In a tweet, the US President Donald Trump urged for calm. Italian motorway bosses blamed for the Genoa bridge collapse were told to leave a ceremony marking 1 year since the disaster. A minute's silence was held to remember the 43 people who were killed when the structure collapsed. The country's ruling Five-Star movement has accused Atalantia of neglecting maintenance on the bridge, which the company denies. 6 people, including 4 British men, have been arrested after major drug busts in Australia and New Zealand. In Queensland, more than 750 kilograms of MDMA powder with an estimated street value of over $600 million was seized. Police also found a further 200 kilograms of methamphetamine in Auckland as part of the operation. After a series of shaking bouts while standing, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel was seated during military honours in Berlin with the visiting Lithuanian president. The shaking episodes, all while standing at ceremonies, have raised questions about her health and whether her busy schedule is proving too much. And finally, teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg is trying to minimise her carbon footprint by sailing to New York from the UK. The 16-year-old, who's been invited to speak at the United Nations, was supported by well-wishers as she left Plymouth on board the Malaysia 2. The 60-foot yacht is fitted with solar panels and underwater turbines. The Swedish campaigner wants governments around the world to do more to tackle climate change.
Teenagers and children, it is not our responsibility. And what we are doing now is to say that we demand that you take your responsibility and do something. I mean, our job is to demand solutions, not to provide solutions.
And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Many thanks, Simon. Still ahead on the news at 10, Fortuna Düsseldorf, Maduka Okoye and Joe Aribo set for the Super Eagles debut after being called up for a friendly against Ukraine on September the 10th. That's on Sports News. Stay with us.